Hello and welcome to Fresh Perspectives. My name is Gail, and I'm really happy to say that my guest is somebody who came all the way down from Buffalo just to be on my program today, and I'm really happy to have her. Her name is Marcy Zastrow, and she is what is known as a vegan educator. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Marcy. Now, how I met you, I'm going to tell a little story about, for our viewing audience, about how I met you. Now, actually, I met your mother first when she was selling things that she sews and makes at the Chautauqua Institution a few summers ago. And we were busy getting acquainted, and I'm not really sure how the subject came up, but I mentioned to her that I run the Vegetarian Vegan Society of Chautauqua County, and she goes, "Oh, my daughters would love you." She goes, something about one of them, or two of them are vegans and one is vegetarian. Am I remembering that correctly? Mm-hmm. Two of you are vegan and yes. One vegetarian. Okay, so anyways, then that September, we found out there was going to be a Veg Fest in Erie, Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. And so my husband and I went down to that, and I recognized I saw your mother. I wasn't expecting to really see anybody from Chautauqua County there, but there was your mom going through a door. And so I tapped her on the shoulder, and she turned around and said, "Oh, I wasn't expecting to see anybody that I knew here." She goes, and then a moment or so later, you showed up with apparently a niece of yours. Yes. And you said, "Oh, there's Grandma. We thought we lost her, you know." She'd stopped to talk to me, and you kept on walking, and then you came back. So I met you, and we got to talking, and you gave me your information, your business card and everything. Mm-hmm. Said that you lived in Buffalo, and that you were a vegan educator. That Veg Fest was a lot of fun, wasn't it?
It was. It was put on by my friends Lisa and Craig Kassler.
Right, from the Erie vegan group. Yes. Mm-hmm. So they had invited you to come. Somehow Victoria Moran was there. Yes, and I remember after all of the programs and everything were over with all of the lectures, they were getting you together to have your picture taken with Victoria Moran.
Yes.
And I'm thinking to myself, gee, if Marcy's getting her picture taken with Victoria Moran, Marcy must be somebody really important. I figure, you know, if you were getting your picture taken with her and Lisa and Craig. And so that was pretty interesting. And eventually I got the idea that I thought, well, I'd like Marcy to come on this television program, to come on Fresh Perspectives. So now I know your mom is vegetarian. She said she's vegetarian. Did that have anything to do with you gradually becoming vegan, or how did that work?
No, it was the other way around.
It was the other way around?
I actually became a vegan before my mom became vegetarian.
Oh, were you?
And I actually just asked her recently, "Why did you become a vegetarian?" And she said she just kind of followed what I was doing, but mm-hmm. she didn't quite go all the way to veganism.
No. Well, that's kind of hard for people who've been on the standard American diet for many, many years, mm-hmm. you know, and I don't know how old she was when she followed you, but anyway, I'm sure she really, and I'm sure she's sitting right over there. She is in the studio, but won't come on camera with us. But she's a very nice lady. And I like her a lot. You know, she's real easy to get along with and mm-hmm. everything. And I make these little boxes out of used greeting cards.
Mhm.
And last summer, she came over towards me one day, and she's got this gift bag in her hands that she's giving to me, and I'm going, what is this? And I look in, and it's a bag full of used greeting cards, so so that I can make boxes out of them. But anyways, so how did you decide to become vegan?
Well, you mentioned my mom, and I do think that's part of it, because I was brought up in a compassionate family, so that was probably part of it. When I was very young, I was in the hospital for a knee problem, and my pastor brought me a stuffed gorilla. And I just loved this gorilla. It was my favorite toy growing up. And it went on to, I started to love monkeys. And one day I was at school and I saw a Scholastic magazine, and on the front cover there was a monkey with tubes coming out of his head. And that's when I was introduced to animal experimentation. And I thought, that's just not right. And then I think there were a lot of things, little things that happened, and I started putting two and two together, thinking that this just isn't right. For example, one day we were eating spare ribs, and I was told, you're not finished yet. And I looked, and there was still meat on the bone, and I literally had to tear the meat off the bone, and I realized what I was doing, and I thought, that was a living being, and it's just not right that we eat them. So I think a series of things got me onto vegetarianism, because I knew some vegetarians. I'm not exactly sure how I learned about veganism, but I do know that later on I read Animal Liberation by Peter Singer. And when I read that, I knew that I would be vegan for life, because I really understood everything about the cruelty to animals, and not just diet, but the whole lifestyle.
Oh, yeah. A lot of people just don't think about it, I guess.
No.
You know, do you have a vegan group that meets like once a month or anything in the Buffalo area?
We have several. There's actually an excellent Facebook page. It's WNY Vegans, and that's how I've connected with a lot of vegans in the Buffalo area, and even expanding outside of there. I actually have a friend in Dunkirk now that I met through WNY Vegans. So there's different groups that have been offshoots of that. There is a group that meets monthly to have vegan drinks. And if you're actually not all alcohol is vegan, but there's a wonderful website, barnivore.com, that people can look at to see if their favorite adult beverages are vegan.
Okay. Which ones are not vegan? Just for our viewing audience's information.
I actually don't drink, so I don't know.
Okay.
But if you go to Barnivore, you can find out. It's the distilling process where they use eggs. So
they do.
That's why some alcohol would not be vegan.
Yeah, I was never able to really drink alcoholic beverages. I did for the first few years I was old enough, but I didn't like the way it made me feel.
Yeah.
It actually made me sick, you know, and I didn't think it really tasted good either, so I just sort of decided to stop drinking. So, okay, let me think here. Now, you are a vegan educator.
Yes.
Would you tell our viewing audience what that is?
Yes. You mentioned Victoria Moran earlier. She wrote a book, Main Street Vegan, and as an offshoot of that, she started an academy. It's the Main Street Vegan Academy, and that's where I met my friends, Craig and Lisa Kassler.
Oh, you took the class at the same time?
Yes, we were in the same class, yes. So it's a 5-day training out in New York City. And you go through, in order to qualify to go there, you have to have been vegan for at least 1 year. I had already been vegan for over 20 years when I went, so I qualified. And then she had some prerequisites that you had to read certain books and watch some of her podcasts beforehand. And then when we were there, we learned all different aspects about how to coach people to become vegan or to follow a vegan lifestyle. and also give presentations, cooking demos. We learned everything. She had a lot of different speakers from all throughout the country, and some talked about the environment, some talked about the clothing industry, the meat industry, how to give a presentation, how to coach one-on-one. So it was an intensive 5 days.
It sounds like it. Yeah, she's pretty famous, isn't she?
Yes,
yes,
she's written a lot of books.
Yes, there have been articles about her in American Vegan Magazine. I know that. I think she's friends with Ann Dinshaw from the American Vegan Society. Okay, and so she was your mentor then?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, now you said that there is a nonprofit group that puts on veg fests in the Buffalo area.
Yes.
What nonprofit group is that?
It's Western New York Veg Fest, or WNY Veg Fest.
Okay.
And there's a small group of volunteers that put on that event each year, and there's about 50 vendors that come. There's a lot of food. They have speakers, and they have some vendors as well.
Oh, that's good. And you put on something yourself, some sort of pop-up?
Yes.
What do you call those events?
They're vegan pop-up markets.
Vegan pop-up markets, okay.
Yes. I started them about a year ago, and the reason being was because I am involved in the WNY Vegans Facebook group. I was listening to what people were saying, and they were wishing that, you know, they had all these vegan products where they didn't have to shop in 50 different places. So I thought, well, wouldn't it be great to have some place where all the vegan vendors came together and offered a one-stop vegan shopping experience. So I actually had a friend, Carlo, from the Main Street Vegan Academy, that was doing pop-up markets in the Philadelphia area. So I checked with him and asked him, you know, for some input on how to organize this, how to get started. And I actually found a lot of my vendors through that Western New York Vegans Facebook group. And I just started, I found a location, and I started sending out applications to see who was interested, and I was just overwhelmed by the response.
Oh, good, good.
And my first one I had in June of 2018, and I just had my fourth one at the end of March. So it's growing, it's a quarterly event, and people, they come to the event and they say, when's the next one?
Oh, okay. Okay, so you have basically one for each season then?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and is this like a pop-up market? Is this like with those pop-up shelters?
No, I look for different locations where I can rent space.
Oh, I see.
Usually it's in a hall. Like,
okay.
The last one was at the Polish Falcons Hall. So I just find wherever I can rent space for, you know, about 4 hours, we'll have the market open. And then the last a couple that I've had, I've also had speakers come in.
Oh yeah, yeah. There was there were some speakers that were pretty amazing at that Veg Fest in Erie a few years ago. Was it Oppenlander? Was that the name of the speaker? I'm trying to think.
Yes, I believe it was.
Oh, that was really, really good. What was the name of that book that he wrote?
I don't recall.
Yeah, I guess he was selling copies of his book, and but it was a pretty amazing lecture that he did, and he showed all kinds of slides and pictures with it. And then there was that married couple that are bodybuilders that were there, and they did a really nice talk. People think that they have to eat meat. A lot of people think they have to eat meat to build those big, strong muscles. And then here's this married couple that's vegan. And
they proved otherwise.
They proved otherwise, yeah. Award-winning people, and they've even, I think the husband even has some sort of an education in nutrition or something like that. So you can eat foods that are good for your health and still get those big muscles.
Yes, all plants have protein in them.
Yes, they do. They certainly do. Okay, what kind of products do these vendors sell at the pop-up markets?
It's a very wide variety. So anybody is allowed to attend. You don't have to be vegan to be a vendor. The only requirement is anything that you do sell and bring into the market has to be vegan. And that's because we're advertising it as a vegan event, and we want all of our customers to be able to come through without having to read labels.
Oh,
That's
sure.
one of the very annoying things about being vegan is you have to read every single label.
Yeah, there's this one married couple that comes to our vegan dinners that we have at the Y in Westfield, and they say that one of the things they like about coming to the dinners is that they don't have to wonder what ingredients are in the food.
Yes.
You know, that they don't have to worry about it. They can just go ahead and dish up and eat. So, so that's kind of nice.
So we do have a lot of different vendors. We do have food vendors. The last market we had somebody who had coffee, another that makes biscotti, vegan biscotti. We have some crafters that come. There was a woman that was selling infinity scarves. We do have different representatives from companies like Arbonne that sell health and beauty, and also Lime Life by Alcove. That was a recent vendor. They also do cruelty-free beauty products. We had somebody, he was actually making shirts on site. He was pressing them. He had a print press there. And then we have some not-for-profits that come as well.
Yeah, that Veg Fest in Erie had people from the animal shelters and like that. One thing that I'm finding that has come into existence in recent years are what do they call it? Sanctuaries for rescued farm animals.
Yes, and we do have 2 sanctuaries in the Buffalo area that do promote a vegan lifestyle. And I've had the pleasure of working with both of them. Asha Sanctuary is out in Newfane, and that's been around, I think, for 9 years now. And it's really growing, and I've done a lot of events out there. She has an annual Kiss a Cow.
Kiss a Cow?
Yep. So it's Albert was the first cow at the sanctuary. So he promotes the sanctuary for her. For Tracy is the woman who runs it. So I've done events there where I've had a booth where I sell my crafts and sometimes baked goods. And the other sanctuary is a newer sanctuary. It's called Penelope's Place, the sanctuary. And she does mostly chicken rescue.
Chicken rescue?
And she also runs this is Vanessa Dawson and her husband Steve. And they also have the Compassionate Self-Actualization Center, where I have done presentations there. I've been a vendor there, and I also just gave a recent talk on whole food plant-based diets.
Just out of curiosity, since you brought up the idea of a chicken rescue, how old can a chicken get to be if, you know, it's not raised on a factory farm or slaughtered for meat or anything? Do you know?
You know, I just read it recently, and I was talking to Vanessa about it. I want to say at least 15 years.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
But in the meat industry, chickens are slaughtered at as young as 6 weeks old.
Oh my!
And the way that they have been bred and the hormones that they use, they can get them up to weight in just 6 weeks. So
it's hard to believe that a chicken could get that big.
Yes, and they get
in 6 weeks.
So big so fast that it cripples their legs, and they can't support their weight.
Yeah.
So it's really sad.
Yeah, it really is. I've seen film footage of what goes on in slaughterhouses, and I don't like it. I mean, it's really obvious if people were to see these things that they could actually see that the animals are actually really, really suffering. That's one of the things that I picked up at that Veg Fest in Erie was there were people from PETA there, and they were passing out copies of a DVD that Paul McCartney
Yes.
made called Glass Walls.
Yes.
Where he said that if slaughterhouses had glass walls, we'd all be vegetarian.
Yes.
And it's very unpleasant to watch.
It is.
It really is. If you are a sympathetic person at all, you probably would quit eating meat if you were to see that.
Yes, and there's a lot of documentaries out now that people are watching, and it's really changing their view and pushing them towards vegetarianism and veganism. One of the more recent ones is Dominion, and then the ones I'm thinking of right now focus on health a lot, but those are also very powerful.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's another thing, is that it's important for our health to eat a plant-based diet. People just don't realize how serious what they're putting into their bodies is.
Yes.
You know, I mean, I've just recently finished reading a book called The World According to Monsanto.
Oh, that's scary.
Yeah. It was a scary book to read. It was like working really hard reading that book.
Yes.
Yeah. It was nasty. You know. Basically, Monsanto was trying to take over the world's food supply.
Yes.
We have to be very careful not to let anything like that happen. And they were making all these promises about making things better, except that it really went the other way. It made things worse. It was all about the money.
Yeah.
And another thing about it is it's so shocking that all of these organizations that are supposed to protect us, like the EPA and the FDA and all of those organizations, but these big companies have all of these organizations wrapped around their little finger. You know, it's like they control them. So it's not a good thing.
Yeah.
Not a good thing. Okay, now I've heard that your mom helps you with the pop-up.
She does.
Yes.
She does, as well as my nieces and nephew. And without them, I couldn't do it. So I do the organization, the legwork of getting the vendors together and everything, and getting the applications in and stuff like that. But they come the day of the event, and I'm running around helping the vendors. Sometimes I'm a speaker at the event. You know, if there's any issues that come up, I'm the go-to person, of course. So my mom stays at the table the whole time. She's well-versed in crafts.
Does she bring the things that she sews to sell at the pop-up markets?
No, because she taught me how to sew, so a lot of the things I make are similar or the same as what she makes.
Oh, I see. Well, I know that she makes pot holders out of scraps of material.
Yes, and so do I.
She goes, that's what I do with the scraps, she goes, but honestly, from what I've seen, it almost looks like they're her biggest selling item, you know, because people, whatever else they might not want, if they don't want her cloth dolls or ornaments or things that she makes, they always need pot holders.
Yes.
So, but anyway, she told me that they're just not as much fun to make as the other things.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
well, I make the pot holders and I veganize them by including a free vegan recipe on each one.
Oh,
so people really like that.
What a great idea! Yes, yes. Okay. Let's see. Do you have a Facebook page that people can go to for finding out about your events?
I do. It's the Vegan Educator.
Uh-huh.
They can find it at the Vegan Educator.
Okay.
And then I also have a separate Facebook page for the Buffalo pop-up markets, and there it is on the screen.
Oh.
So it's Buffalo Vegan Pop-Up. So
okay.
They can find it on Facebook.
Okay. Yes, well, we might as well go on to the pictures now that you brought with you.
All right, so this is the day I met Gail.
Oh yeah,
So this-
at the Veg Fest in Erie.
Yes. So the couple in green, that is Craig and Lisa Kassler, my fellow classmates and friends that organized the whole Veg Fest. The one in the dress, of course, is Victoria Moran.
That the famous
Victoria Moran.
Victoria Moran.
Obviously, that's me in the vegan Pac-Man T-shirt, and that is my niece Christina, who
Christina. Now, whose daughter would she be?
she is my sister Melissa's daughter.
Okay. Is Melissa a vegan or a vegetarian?
She's a vegetarian.
She's a vegetarian.
And Christina recently told me I could be a vegetarian but never a vegan. So
Really?
I'm working on her.
Yeah. Well, you never know. When they get old, sometimes when they get older, they decide to take the next leap.
Yep. So this is the new poster that I just got for my vegan pop-up markets, so people know where to find us.
Oh, you designed it yourself, did you?
No. Well, I had some input in it, but I went through Will Crow.
Yeah, that's a cute sign.
So this is Penelope's Place, the sanctuary that I was talking about. That is one of the co-founders, Vanessa Dawson.
Is that craft stuff that they sell?
She does. She makes some of the crafts herself. She does some sewing, sachets. And an interesting little story that your viewers might be interested in. I first met Vanessa because she posted that she needed help sewing chicken diapers. And I said, oh, I can sew.
Chicken diapers?
Chicken diapers, yes. So
Okay.
when chickens are rescued, they often live in the house, in people's homes.
Oh.
And chickens go to the bathroom a lot.
So
They designed a diaper for them to wear so that they could clean the diaper rather than their whole house.
So now these are reusable, these chicken
Yes,
diapers? They can be laundered
Oh, yes.
and reused.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. This is Beth Holdridge. Her company is The Baker's Daughter, and she makes all vegan, gluten-free baked goods.
Now there are two people in the picture.
Yes.
Which one is she?
She's the one standing.
Okay.
And that is her partner, May.
Okay.
So the ones that I'm showing today are the vendors that have been to all 4 of my markets.
Oh, okay.
So these are people that took the risk the very first one that I organized, and they keep telling me they're coming back for each one.
Oh, good. Good.
So this is Chris. He is from Eden Cafe. Eden Cafe is in Batavia, so that's a little far of a drive, but well worth it. And they are famous for their carrot dogs. He and his wife Judy.
Oh, carrot dogs?
Yes, carrot dogs.
What other ingredients go into a carrot dog? I mean,
You know what? I don't have the ingredient
I
list.
mean, is it something where that like they grate the carrots and then mix them with other ingredients, or?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they
Yeah.
also make a really good
Yeah.
carrot juice.
Oh, carrot juice.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is Arbonne. I had mentioned that there's different representatives that sell health and beauty aids, and the one closer to us, that is Barb Kazmarek, and she has been to every single one of my markets.
Oh. A friend of mine used to sell Arbonne cosmetics at one time, but then she got away from it. She tried making her own line of products at one time too, but anyways, I've just been reading. I'm still reading it. I'm reading a book that was written by a woman named Anita Roddick. Did you ever?
Oh,
The Body Shop.
Yes.
Yes, it was. She and her husband started this company with cosmetics, personal care products, and things that were made with all natural plant-based ingredients. And a few years back, unfortunately, she died unexpectedly of a brain aneurysm. And somehow somebody who had worked as a representative of theirs had, when I asked her about it, she told me that what had happened to her, and then at a later time I spoke with the same person, and she said that she had the company had been sold to L'Oreal, and the L'Oreal company discontinued the line. Yeah, so that was, it probably was the best stuff they had, and yet they discontinued it. But it's amazing how, from reading this book, how quickly they became successful with this business, though, and it was all plant-based. They were very much into the animal rights movement. None of the products were tested on animals or anything. But so it's very sad that that came to an end. Okay. Was that? Did you have more pictures? Oh yeah.
Oh, we can't forget.
Vegan,
we can't forget the vegan grocery store.
The vegan grocery store.
They just celebrated their 1-year anniversary in March of 2019. They are a fully vegan. All they sell is vegan goods. The one in the middle is Gabby Richards. She and her husband Jason, and then her mom, who is also standing there, Judy. They opened the vegan grocery store in North Tonawanda, New York. And it's been highly successful. They come to all my markets. In fact, they go to events with Asha Sanctuary. Any event that I'm at, they're usually there too.
Is her mother the one on our left?
Yes. And then that's her sister, Lydia.
Lydia. Oh, okay. They're all related.
Yep,
then.
and they are all vegan, all three of them, as well as Jason.
Okay, so it's a family business then. Yeah, you know, vegan groceries are so important. I found now that I always used to like s'mores when I was younger.
Yep.
And I always kind of missed having them. But now I'm finding out somebody's come up with vegan marshmallows that you can get.
Yes,
so,
I believe it's
but
called Dandies.
You have to find something. You have to find vegan chocolate, though.
That's easy. Well, maybe not here. But Wegmans carries.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Wegmans does, yes.
The Wegmans brand, it has the vegan symbol on it. I think that was all of them.
Was that all of them? Oh, okay. Yeah. So that was funny. In fact, I had a couple ladies on that I was interviewing one time back during the winter here. Something about, well, I knew that I had heard that sometimes they had the vegan marshmallows over there at this certain store over in Sherman. It's like, you know, a real small town, you know, and everything. And we were kind of talking about that a little bit, and then this was really funny. I went to the Tops grocery store after we did the program, and I got down to Tops, and somehow they had like a whole case of the vegan marshmallows, the small-sized ones.
Oh.
You know, so I bought like several. I bought like half a dozen packages of them. It was like a clearance. Sometimes they'll have, I had never seen these in the Mayville store anywhere. I live here in Mayville, and I had never seen them. So, of course, I bought several packages. They were getting close to the expiration date, so I didn't want to overdo it, you know. And but then by the next time I came in the store, they were all gone. I don't know if somebody else had bought them all up, or if the store had just thrown them out when they got to the expiration date. I don't really know, but it was such a synchronistic experience, you know, talking about them on Fresh Perspectives, and then going to the store right afterwards and finding some there. But yeah, Wegmans, I found some of the full-size marshmallows at Wegmans, so they work better for the s'mores than the little. My husband and I, that fudge recipe I was telling you about, of Ann Denshaw's, that she showed me how to make, my husband and I have been trying to figure out how to use the mini vegan marshmallows in the fudge recipe and having it turn out okay. So you have a book with you there.
I do. This was put out. It's the Main Street Vegan Academy Cookbook. So me and my fellow classmates and anybody who's gone through the academy were invited to include their recipes in here, submit their recipes. So I actually came up with a recipe a few years ago. I took a basic cookie bar recipe and I adapted it 12 different ways.
Oh, 12 different
and
ways?
I had 20 people come over to my house and test them, test taste them. And the winner came out being the maple walnut chocolate chip cookie bar. And I submitted it to it was the Movalicious Bake Off at Asha Sanctuary. And I ended up winning.
Oh.
So I thought, okay, I can bake. So the adaption, the second prize, or the second place, was the nutmeg chocolate chip bars, and that is in this cookbook. So I have a published recipe, which I'm very excited about.
Yeah, one time I thought I was going to write a vegetarian recipe book, and I started it out, by doing things that you could do different, from certain other recipes to make it vegetarian. But then, before I got very far with it, I went vegan, and so there went that idea. I just kind of, I just take recipes. I take my old favorite recipes and just change ingredients.
Yes.
My old favorite vegetarian ones, and change ingredients just to make them vegan. Like with baked goods, you probably use the ground up flaxseed,
Yes.
a tablespoon to 3 tablespoons of water, and
Yep.
let it soak for about 10 or 15 minutes.
Yep.
And
that's a great replacement for eggs.
yeah. And then nowadays you can get vegan milk alternatives.
Yes.
Made out of nuts and things that you can use in place of milk in recipes.
And it's amazing because it used to be just soy milk, but now you can get soy milk, you can get rice milk, you can get almond milk, you can get hemp milk.
Oh, I love the hemp milk.
You can get oat milk.
Oh, yeah.
Anything you can think of. An interesting thing in Elma, New York, there used to be a dairy farm, Elmhurst, and they discontinued their dairy operations, and now they only make nut milks.
Oh.
And they have macadamia milk, they have walnut milk. So any type of nut that you can think of, they've made it into a milk.
Yeah, we have a dairy farm on the road that we live on. In order to get to our, unless you want to take a detour, you have to drive past it. And sometimes they'll, the pastures on the other side of the road from their barn. So sometimes if you're there at the wrong time of the day, you have to wait for the cows to finish crossing. And then I had to drive through some cow manure to get here today that was out in the road, So, but anyways, as far as, now this isn't really considered a baked good, but sometimes I make scalloped potatoes, and traditionally people make a sauce for that with milk. And I honestly just use water to make the sauce, and then maybe get some vegan bouillon cubes. I get some Rapunzel bouillon cubes to kind of help it flavor it up real good.
Interesting.
I like that, and just with water even. So of course the water in our well at our house is really good. I think when they drilled the well for our house, they must have tapped into an artesian well, because that's how good tasting and clean our water is. So it's really good. Now, we've got about 17 minutes left here. Shall we move along and talk about why it's good to use vegan cosmetics and the other things that people that are vegan do? Like the shoes that I'm wearing today. they're my waterproof hiking shoes, actually. And the bottoms are rubber, and the upper part of them is nylon. You know, in the warmer months, I just run around in cotton canvas shoes and things like that. And then it's good to use cosmetics that don't contain animal byproducts and haven't been tested on animal. I kind of like to have you tell our viewing audience your perspective of these things.
Sure, sure. So sometimes when people think of veganism, they think it's a diet, and it's limited to diet, and it's a restrictive diet, and it really isn't. But veganism is a lifestyle, so it incorporates everything. And I guess the goal or mission of being vegan is that you have that compassion and you do the least harm. So you try to limit anything, or you avoid anything that has animal products in it. So that's just not limited to meat and dairy, which we usually think of, but also leather and wool, silk, certain things that we wear. And you had mentioned the shoes. So I just wanted to say a little bit about the leather industry. For one thing, it's horrific on the environment.
Oh, I've heard it. I've heard it pollutes the environment.
Yes.
Something awful.
Yes, and it's sometimes people say it's an offshoot of the meat industry, but the leather industry is really where the money is made. The meat industry is heavily subsidized.
Oh, are they?
Yes, and if the government wasn't subsidizing it, it probably more of us would be going vegetarian, because by necessity we just wouldn't be able to afford the meat. But the leather industry is also very profitable. So in some ways the meat industry is highly efficient because they use every little last piece of the cow. In other ways it's very inefficient because of the cruelty and the impact on the environment. So if the leather industry was to go away, it would probably push away the meat industry. That would also be going the way of the dairy farms today, which probably isn't something I should say in this community, but sorry. But like Elmhurst, you saw that I mentioned earlier, that has converted to a nut-based factory. And then there's also, I had mentioned earlier on, one of the reasons I became vegan was because I saw about animal testing. That's actually going away. It's not required for everything. In fact, California recently passed legislation where I think it's in it might be 2020, it might be a little bit later. They are going to ban the sale of any cosmetics that were tested on animals.
Oh.
So whatever California does, pretty much the rest of the states are going to have to follow, because that's a huge market. So that's really exciting to see. But it's not necessary, and it's also inaccurate, because you know, even monkeys that are close relatives, you know, they're going to react differently to than a way a human would. So the testing is pretty much not accurate, and there's a lot of non-animal alternatives that are coming out to test products.
Right. You know, I've bothered, I can be kind of nosy when I go into a store. You know, the vast majority of the commercial brands of soap have sodium talloate in them, which is from animals.
Yes.
And one that was always considered one that was supposed to be better than the others, like on your face and like that, was Dove, I think. They talk about it being like being better for you or something like that. And I just recently picked up, I didn't buy it, that's not what I mean. I picked one up to read the ingredient label, and there it said right on the first ingredient, sodium talloate. So I always only buy soap, from companies or individual vendors, you know, that sell things they make themselves, that have nothing from an animal in them.
Yeah, and the labeling has gotten so much better. It's really exciting to go into a store and see all these vegan labels. Some of the store brands, even like Wegmans and Trader Joe's, they have their own vegan label. So that's really nice to just be able to pick it up. And it goes for cosmetics as well. Although something I should mention is there is a lot of confusion about a product being not tested on animals being vegan. Even if it says it's not tested on animals, it still might have the tallow or a non-vegan ingredient in it.
Animal byproducts,
Yes.
like maybe there might be some products have goat's milk in it,
Yes.
or even cow's milk or something like that in it, certain cosmetics and things. And one thing I think too that people don't realize, that people probably don't even think about, is anything that you put on your body gets absorbed through the pores on your skin. So, and then also when people are eating meat and dairy products and things, they don't realize that the animals are being fed things that we would not consider eating as feed. Would you want to tell the viewing audience what some of those things are?
Well, it's not just that. They're also, because the way we've bred them and the way that we confine them, there's a lot of disease going on. So they're given a lot of antibiotics, which could be the reason why we're becoming more immune to antibiotics, because even though we're not taking them, you know, when we're sick, we're eating them. Unknowingly, we're eating them. And also, they use a lot of hormones in the industry, so we're ingesting those as well. So you're really taking drugs without knowing it.
Yeah. Well, some experts have told me that even if a person is only eating organically grown animal products, that you're still getting hormones that shouldn't be being introduced into our bodies, the animal's own hormones.
Oh.
And then recently somebody told me that a lot of poultry farmers there's arsenic in some of the feed that they're giving to chickens, and that was somebody that was on a few months ago on Fresh Perspectives that actually told me that. So and just all kinds of things that we would not consider eating if we were told this is this and this is, you know, you wouldn't eat arsenic.
No.
You know what I mean? You wouldn't deliberately do something like that. So I know Ann Dinshaw tells the story about, some guy she met one time that she dated for a while, wanted her to take her shopping, and I think it might have been like a thrift shop or something. And he picked out several items of clothing he thought she should try on. And one of them was like a leather halter top.
Oh, no.
Yeah, really. And I remember he pointed it out to her. You tried on everything else, but you didn't try that on. And so he pestered her, so she did try it on, and for a moment she, you know, kind of thought she looked pretty good in it or something like that, but she couldn't buy it, you know. Well, it said that it had never been worn. It was an item with the original price tag on it still, and it said it had never been worn, and she said, but it had been worn by somebody else.
Yes, it had been.
She goes, a cow hanging upside down with its throat cut open, you know, was where that leather came from. So, so I think it's really pretty amazing. You know, I really have a lot of respect for her to have stuck with values that she learned from her parents.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, as far as the health aspects of a vegan diet. We were talking beforehand how a vegan diet helped you. People don't realize that the food we eat is making us sick. But if we change our diets to a whole food plant-based diet, the foods we're eating can make us well.
Right, right.
So that's something I would like your viewers to understand.
Right. I did interview a man named Mike Leach on Fresh Perspectives one time. And this is one of the people who cured himself of heart disease.
Yes.
By changing to a plant-based diet. He said his left ventricle was 80% blocked, and they call that the widowmaker, but instead of having surgery, he changed to a totally plant-based diet, and it cleared out.
Yeah, there's several doctors that have been promoting that and treating their patients that way, and they have seen vast improvements, if not reversals, in heart disease.
Right, right. And then type 2 diabetes is a reversible disease, too. A lot of people think that they cause themselves to have it by eating sugar.
And it's not.
When in reality, it is, it's the animal foods that cause your body to block the insulin, so it can't process the sugar when it gets in there. So I'm not 100% sure how it all works, but we were introduced to a video, a DVD, a few years ago called What the Hell?
Yes.
And they tell you how that works on that DVD. They said that way back in the 1940s, a doctor named Walter Kempfner did a study where he took his diabetic patients, he took them off of all animal foods, and but let them eat as much even refined flours and sugars and things, as long as it didn't come from an animal. He let them eat it, and in spite of the fact that they were eating stuff like that, their diabetes went away because they had quit eating animal foods.
Yeah, and it's too bad that doctors aren't prescribing food more often. You know, they resort to medication before food.
Right.
We had talked also at my vegan pop-up markets that I have speakers. Usually it's vendors that speak, but at my last market I had Tim and Heather Kaufman speak. Some people might recognize the name because they have been on national TV.
Oh, have they?
They have. They have a remarkable story about how a plant-based diet changed and probably saved their lives. And if anybody's interested, they can read more at fatmanrants.com. That's
fatmanrants.com.
Yes, that is Tim Kaufman's blog website.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, you know, people might find some of this hard to believe, but I personally know people, you know, who have done these things, so I know that it's the truth. And that I've been recommending that What the Health DVD to everybody. And there's also some very famous people that were actually in the cattle industry who've become vegan.
Howard Lyman.
Howard Lyman, yeah.
He wrote, I think it was called The Mad Cowboy.
The Mad Cowboy, yeah. Where he became vegan, and he had started out as, I think it was a beef one.
Beef rancher, yeah.
And he got so sick, he almost lost his ability to walk. But now he's a big proponent of a plant-based diet. And you know, animal rights and all that. And it's the same thing with, have you ever heard of a man named Harold Brown?
Yes.
He grew up in a family that raised beef cattle, and I think that I've met him a couple of times. He's come a couple of times to speak at our vegetarian vegan society dinners, and I think it was a health problem when he was only 28 years old or something.
Yeah.
Had something to do with his decision, and now he's an animal rights person and a strict vegan. You know, so even people in those industries have changed.
Yeah, and some of the doctors too were raised in the dairy industry. I believe T. Colin Campbell.
Yeah, I was just going to say
and,
that.
Well, he's not a medical doctor, but Dr. Esselstyn, who treats heart patients, they both had that background in the dairy industry. So now they're promoting whole food plant-based diets.
Right, and then there's I'm trying to think of his name. Phooey. Yeah, there's a lot of them anyway, but I think it's Dr. Furman.
Yes,
Yes,
Joel Furman.
yes. I've seen him doing lectures on the PBS television channel, and you know, a lot of people, when you talk about like a plant-based diet or something like that, you know, you'll have fewer health problems and you won't have to go through this and that and the other thing. And they go, oh, you know, they make this comment about, I can't live like that. And I remember hearing Dr. Furman say, well, I can't have a stroke and not be able to move. And he's mentioning all these, how it ruins your life, you know, all these different things. He goes, I can't live like that, he goes, you know. And a lot of people are depending on their doctors to take care of them. And what it all boils down to is your doctor might not be able to save you.
Yeah, in a Western diet, people on a Western diet develop Western diseases. So these are preventable diseases through diet, and that includes heart disease, stroke, Alzheimer's disease, diabetes, certain cancers. So just by changing your diet, you can help prevent all of these things. And your doctor might not even know this, because in medical school, all those years of training, they get 4 hours of nutrition. So they might not know.
Right. Well, you know, they're not actually, I've heard they're not actually required to study nutrition in medical school. And somebody who had actually, this was told to me by somebody who had actually taught nutrition to doctors, who said that most of them don't take it, and the ones that do sleep, most of the ones that do sleep through class. That's what he said. So
I also saw that a poll was done amongst doctors asking them why they don't promote a plant-based diet, and most of the doctors said our patients won't follow it. So,
and some of them say, I don't want them to feel like they're being deprived of their favorite foods, you know. So
how about their health?
Yeah, really. Well, unfortunately, this is such an interesting topic, but unfortunately we've come to the end of another episode of Fresh Perspectives. Thank you so much for coming on, and I'll see the rest of you in the viewing audience on the next episode in a couple of weeks.